Everyone keeps thinking that it's much better to be an extrovert than it is to be an introvert, and I can't blame them. There are plenty of advantages to being an extrovert within the social spaces, such as finding a lot of words to say and keeping the conversation going effortlessly. This makes a lot of introverts want to be extroverts due to the social connections they seem to make, leading to opportunities to form deeper connections. There is a difference in social battery here. For extroverts, they recharge by being around groups of people. Being in that place energizes them, which gives them that natural energy to say a lot of things. Introverts, on the other hand, have a limited social battery and don't like being around big groups of people or environments where there's too much people around, like a big crowd. They recharge their social batteries when in solitude. That doesn't mean there has to be zero people around to recharge, only that there's not much people traffic for them to recharge reasonably. There's a lot of social advice geared towards introverts to take a more active approach, such as asking more questions, making small talk, and keeping it going until you find a hook point. While I agree there needs to be actionable advice aimed at introverts, the advice often given is mostly geared towards extroversion as they require a lot of social battery. An introvert's social connection hinges on the fact that there needs to be a deep connection between them and the person they're talking to in order to keep going. So if things continue to stay at a surface level, despite their best efforts, they'll run out of social energy and will need time to recharge when following these tips. This cycle, I honestly think, is not good. Following advice and trying to improve your social skills is always a better strategy. I think we can do much better here. This brings me to the concept of social edge. Social edge is basically a practice of placing yourself in a social position that brings out your best self, thus leading to people seeing how interesting or interested you are in wanting to stick around. So how do we find our social edge that is compatible with our social energy? For extroverts, due to their high social battery from being around social situation, they're best served by leaning into that. Now, of course, there are drawbacks to being an extrovert, such as talking too much or dominating the conversation unintentionally. If you can learn to dial back on some of these things, you can have a dynamic where you do most of the talking, but you also give the other person more room to talk and expand on themselves. This creates that natural two-way interaction. For introverts, their natural advantages are active listening and observation, making them great at one-on-one conversations. Due to their low social batteries, they tend to observe more and absorb the information around them, allowing them to be thoughtful in their responses and showing their best selves. The disadvantage of being an introvert is that in order to lean into these advantages, the other person needs to feel comfortable talking more and willing to engage with the one-on-one instead of a group. This is a factor hard to control as not everyone is like this. In order to get past this, some skills introverts can develop is to ask open-ended questions and observe for hook points. Now, in order to help with open-ended questions and observe for hook points, they too can benefit from making small talk because small talk opens up a test the waters to see if the other person is open to talk to them. But the biggest skills for introverts are observation and asking open-ended questions. Those are the main ones I would say to focus on. Open-ended questions are designed for elaboration from the other party, which leads to sharing details that the introvert becomes very curious and interested in. This puts introverts in a position to potentially make use of their active listening and observation skills and detect points of interest in the shared details. In this position, it's as if the extroversion is coming out of them naturally without feeling like they're compromising their nature. Now keep in mind, I say potentially because details that person may give an introvert may not always have the points of interest, which makes it harder for them to keep going with their limited social battery. That's not to say that introverts are self-absorbed, far from the fact. But the thing is, because introverts work on a low social battery, they want to invest in conversations that they themselves are going to be curious about or interested in, even if it's something they're learning for the first time. With both approaches established, it's a good rule of thumb to take an interest in the other person. When they share something with you, they likely shared it because they themselves are potentially invested in it. This is an opportunity to dig deep into it and see if you can use that to learn more about them. And people love to talk about themselves. When you get them talking about themselves to you, they experience great feelings and they associate that with you. So the next time they see you, it puts you in a more favorable position and compels them to want to keep talking to you in the near future.